The Black Lodge, Twin Peaks. The Black Lodge is not hell, but it carries the same weight of damnation. In Twin Peaks, this otherworldly dimension exists outside time and space, accessed through a circle of 12 sycamore trees called the Glastonbury Grove. Stepping through, you enter a maze of crimson curtains and black and white chevron floors that stretch into infinity. Rooms repeat endlessly, yet never quite the same. A hallway you just walked through is suddenly reversed, the lighting wrong, the air heavy like a storm that never breaks. The lodge is home to enigmatic beings, the man from another place, the giant, and the parasitic killer Bugby, who thrives on human pain and fear. Language twists here. Words are spoken backward, voices echo with wrong tones, and meaning slips away like water through your hands. Time loses all structure. You could spend hours, days, or years wandering, only to emerge seconds later, if you ever emerge at all. The lodge chooses who can leave. Worse, it can follow you back, creeping into dreams, mirrors, and reflections. Its influence can possess you, hollowing you out until you're just a smiling shell. And the most terrifying part? The Black Lodge is always watching, waiting for the moment your will cracks, and then it opens its curtains. The Mist Dimension. At first, the fog looks ordinary, a gray wall rolling across town after a storm. But in the mist, it isn't weather, it's a rupture, a gash in the skin of reality that lets something else leak through. Cross that line and the familiar collapses. Distances warp. Footsteps echo like whispers stretched too thin. Shadows sprout antennae, claws, wings. Anatomies that mock human design. Inside the mist, you are no longer predator. You are prey. The things within stalk not with anger, but with the cold certainty of deep-sea leviathans rising toward quarry that never stood a chance. They don't hate you. They don't even see you. You are nothing but meat adrift in vapor. And the mist itself is alive. It presses against windows, seeps into lungs, muffles every sound, until stillness feels heavy enough to pulverize marrow. The creatures terrify, but the real monster's the fog itself. Expanding, suffocating, merciless. The true horror? This isn't an isolated storm. It's a dimension spilling into ours, spreading without end. If it rolls far enough, there may be no towns, no oceans, no continents left. Just gray, a planet swallowed in murk, until the last human gasp vanishes into endless vapor. But what happens when the fog isn't an invader, but the town itself? The further, insidious. What waits when your spirit drifts too far from your body? A place beside ours. A place called the Further. It looks familiar, but everything is wrong. A hallway repeats when you turn back. A room shifts while you're still inside it. The air vibrates with whispers that aren't yours. Time won't help you here. Minutes stretch into hours. Hours collapse into seconds. You can wander forever without moving a step, and you are never alone. The lipstick-faced demon scratches his claws against the walls. The bride in black waits by doors, smiling at your fear. They don't just chase. They circle closer each time you wander. Your body lies defenseless while you're gone. One slip, and something else wakes up in it. The Further takes memory first. Your name, your past. Faces of loved ones flicker until they're gone. It doesn't forgive mistakes. It doesn't care for life. And when you open your eyes, how do you know it's really you? The Upside Down. Stranger Things. The Upside Down isn't just a shadow. It's a wound in reality. In Stranger Things, Hawkins has a mirror world, identical in map, but rotting in essence. Overrun by fungal spores, vines, and a cold damp that seems to seep into your bones. It's a place where life left a corpse-like imprint. Crossing the barrier, through a gate, a psychic bleed, even from lingering grief, puts you in its grip. Here, gravity sags, shadows stretch wrong, and echoes replay conversations you never said. The colors fade, but the detail remains. Your own town, but filtered through decay. What should be familiar is twisted, uncanny. Within that decay, a hive mind broods. The Mind Flayer. It doesn't need a body to rule. Its influence seeps, infects, corrupts. Demogorgons, demobats, creeping tendrils. They aren't random monsters. They're extensions of that hive, manifestations of a whole dimension's will. Time here fractures. Hours may condense into minutes, days into seconds. You wander familiar streets that loop back into themselves, or land somewhere no Hawkins sign exists. The Upside Down doesn't let logic survive, and the worst part, even if you escape, it can follow.
I saw so many things in one day.
A whisper in your ear, a flicker in the corner of your eye. Its spores linger on your skin, its pull tugging toward gates you've closed. The Upside Down isn't just somewhere else. It's a slow rot in the world you thought you knew. The oldest house. Control. From the street, it's a blank slab of concrete. Inside, it's architecture with opinions. Headquarters of the Federal Bureau of Control. The oldest house isn't merely a building, it's a reality editing structure. It chooses who can notice it. It keeps what it wants. A brutalist skyscraper that shifts when unobserved. Floor plans go stale. Corridors realign. Whole departments vanish behind thresholds. Tears into other realities. The house nests objects of power and altered items. Mundane objects infected with impossible behavior. The service weapon binds a director through a pact in the astral plane with the board. The hotline dials across dimensions. The Ocean View Motel appears like a save room between worlds. Ring the bell, solve the pattern, unlock a door that shouldn't exist. Exposure scrambles language and will. Victims float, humming. The hiss has rewritten their voices, then their thoughts. Gravity becomes suggestion. Memory becomes draft. You aren't killed, you're versioned. A security wing hangs midair, desks spinning like planets. Down a sterile hallway, the motel's bell waits. 3 rings, a clicking lock, a key to a room that didn't exist a second ago. The house sometimes lets you leave. Sometimes it files you. Promotions are metaphysical. Ascend, and the director is both person and position, held together by a weapon that refuses the unworthy. It acts like a government office because it is one, just not ours alone. Policies are rituals. Signatures are bindings. Paperwork is a kind of spell. When departments go off-map, agents don't search. They negotiate with floor plans. You don't haunt the oldest house. It haunts you. And when you step back onto 52nd Street, you feel that echo, like a door in your head just reclassified your memories. A selective living labyrinth that opens thresholds to the astral plane, houses altered items, and spreads the hiss. It chooses perception, rewrites space, and binds its director through the service weapon and the board. The Warp, Warhammer 40,000. The warp isn't space, it's emotion pretending to be energy. Every thought, prayer, and nightmare ever born in the minds of sentient beings ends up here, swirling into a psychic ocean that stretches beyond time. Humanity discovered it not as explorers, but as addicts, relying on its chaos to sail across the stars. Ships tear through its tides using the light of the Astronomicon, a psychic beacon kept alive by daily sacrifice. Without it, they drift through eternity inside their own madness. Inside the warp, reality has no loyalty, thought has gravity, and belief shapes geography. Enough worship can summon a god. Enough hatred can feed one. That's how the Chaos Gods were born. Slaanesh from pleasure, Khorne from rage, Nurgle from decay, and Tzeentch from obsession with change. They aren't invaders. They're the byproducts of civilization's emotional pollution, the raw data of every fear and desire that ever existed. To navigate this realm, Psychers open a third eye and stare directly into infinity. Some see beauty, most see themselves, and lose the ability to look away. Demons form out of memory and instinct, wearing human guilt like flesh. Whole fleets vanish into storms made from collective anxiety, only to return centuries later with new languages, new faces, and no sense of time. The Imperium calls it the Immaterium, but the truth is simpler. The warp is the human mind, expanded to the size of the universe. It isn't evil, it's honest. Every miracle in the galaxy runs on insanity, and every prayer leaves a scar. Humanity didn't conquer the stars. It outsourced its soul to get there. The Dreamlands. Lovecraft. At first glance, the Dreamlands are beautiful. Rolling plains under alien moons. Ancient cities with spires that touch the clouds. Seas filled with stars instead of water. In Lovecraft's mythos, these realms exist parallel to our world, accessible only through deep, controlled dreaming. At first, you can shape them, will yourself into palaces, summon impossible creatures, fly over endless landscapes. But the Dreamlands push back. Nightmares gain weight and form, often hunting you across the terrain. Travelers encounter cats that speak in riddles, merchants selling relics from worlds you've never seen, and kings who have ruled for centuries without aging. The further you wander, the stranger the rules become. Distance folds, time slows, and your sense of self starts eroding. At the fringes lie the dark side, a place where reality unravels completely. Some dreamers never wake up, their bodies withering in bed while their minds are trapped forever, wandering the dreamlands as fading echoes. Others return, but not whole, carrying fragments of something alien back with them. The danger isn't just getting lost, it's the realization that the dreamlands might not be dreams at all. They could be another layer of reality, one that doesn't care if your waking body starves while you serve as entertainment for its ancient rulers. Kadath. There is a city no map dares mark, no traveler dares claim. The Forbidden Mountain Fortress at the heart of the Dreamlands. Its towers rise like black spears carved from stone that predates memory, its gates sealed against mortal prayer. It is said the gods of Earth dwell there, but no one who seeks them ever returns whole. To reach Kadath is to cross dream deserts where the stars shift like predators. To climb its slopes is to hear voices in languages older than time, whispering bargains you cannot understand but already agreed to. The air grows thin, yet heavy with the pressure of unseen eyes. Even the landscape resists you. Mountains rearrange themselves. Stairways curl back downward. Doorways return you to where you began. Kadath does not want to be found, and still dreamers climb. Some are lured by visions of golden cities promised to them in sleep. Others by the hope of speaking to gods who might grant answers. But Kadath is no temple. It is a cage. The gods within do not listen. It is a cage. The god mortals dream, and their dreams spill outward, shaping continents, shaping lives, shaping you. The horror of Kadath is not its walls nor its gods, but its truth. That reality itself may be nothing more than dream residue. And if that is so, then whose dream are you living in? But while Kadath hides its gods in slumber, the ocean hides something far older and far more patient. The empty world. SCP-093. Press a red stone against a mirror. The glass doesn't reflect. It opens. You step through into a world drowned in red light. Streets stretch empty. Windows gape like mouths that never close. Your breath sounds too loud. Your heartbeat sounds louder. Explorers leave notes in bunkers and never return. Machines hum without power like animals pretending to breathe. Dust tastes metallic on your tongue. Silence pushes against your teeth. Something moves where no wind blows. Faceless torsos drag across the floor. Limbs wrong, steps uneven. They follow heat. They follow sound. They circle closer each time you pause. Radio contact fades without warning, then dies. The mirror sometimes seals early, shutting like a polite trap. Panic whispers to run. Running makes noise, and the disc isn't loyal to you. Drop it and it bolts for glass, tearing through walls. Nothing slows it, nothing breaks it. The empty world teaches one lesson. Doors don't promise escape. Curiosity pulls you through. Regret waits on the other side. If the mirror blooms again behind you, don't look back, because if it shuts between heartbeats, you'll watch home shrink into glass while something else watches you. The Shimmer, Annihilation. It doesn't invade, it refracts. A slow, iridescent weather that turns life into echoes of itself. Inside the Shimmer, the rules don't break. They bend until identity snaps. Plants wear human shapes. A crocodile grows a garden of teeth. Your own cells start speaking a different language. The land isn't cursed. It's prisms all the way down. Light, sound, radio, DNA, splitting and recombining until the familiar looks back as something beautifully wrong. Teams go in. Recordings come out. Warped, doubled, missing pieces. The border gleams like a soap bubble. Step through and your compass becomes a rumor. The lighthouse sits at the center like a pupil, the point where a falling fire seed struck and the world began. Refracting. It isn't malice, it isn't mercy. It's a process, indifferent and tireless, copying, blending, iterating. Even names blur. Area X, the Shimmer. 2 labels for 1 transformation. Listen long enough and you'll hear it harvest more than shapes. A bear roars with a human's last terrified breath, sound grafted onto hunger. A soldier's double moves like a mirror that learned to breathe. Grief becomes geology, guilt, a topography. People don't vanish here, they're reauthored. The Shimmer doesn't choose victims, it chooses materials. And when you leave, if you leave, you take its grammar with you. A fingerprint that flows, a glance that glitters wrong in the light. The Shimmer doesn't destroy, it edits. And the final draft wears your face, almost. Yharnam and the Hunter's Dream. Bloodborne. Yharnam looks like a cathedral that forgot where the ground ends. Streets stacked on streets. Spires drilling the sky. Everything wet with old blood. A Gothic city built on a blood miracle. The healing church promises cure. The city answers with hunts. Beneath the cobbles, Bergenverth secrets, tombs of the great ones, and doors that open only when you've seen too much. When you sleep or die, you wake in the Hunter's Dream. A manicured garden outside reality, tended by Gehrman and the doll. Blood is technology and temptation. It heals. It changes. It remembers the ocean, Kos, and kin. Your insight is currency and curse. The higher it climbs, the more the city reveals. Lanterns become waygates. Invisible amygdala resolve on the walls like spider gargoyles you somehow missed. The moon phase governs the hunt. Under the blood moon, Yharnam's truth tears through its costume. The hunter's mark binds you to a loop. Wake, hunt, learn, die, repeat. Too little insight and you stumble blind. Too much and you hear the choir. Frenzy rips your brain like static. The old blood pushes you toward beasthood. Limbs remembering the animal they evolved from. Your body holds, then doesn't. Your mind holds, then doesn't. Yharnam doesn't kill you. It converts you into meat, myth, or midwife for a great one. A hunt night emptied of people, yet watched from every window. A bridge under moonlight where Father Gascoigne forgets his name. The nightmare of Mensis. A brain, enormous and praying, and your sanity evaporating like fog. The doll's hands gentle, lowering your weapon like a ritual blade. There are exits, but none are clean. Submit to Gehrman and wake into morning. Memory thinned, city unchanged. Refuse, and the moon presence makes you the next caretaker of the dream. Transcend, and you molt into something small, soft, and terrible. An infant great one blinking at a world now too simple to fear. Rituals are contracts here. Prayers are experiments, and the only map that works is the one drawn on the inside of your skull. The Far Realm, Dungeons and Dragons? The Far Realm isn't another world. It's what's left when the rules that define worlds stop working. In Dungeons and Dragons, it exists outside the known planes, a kind of extra-dimensional infection that logic itself can't interpret. Wizards describe it as infinite and formless, a place where thought and geometry collapse together. Shapes twist into abstractions, and abstractions try to become shapes. Even the gods don't map it, they quarantine it. What makes the Far Realm horrifying isn't monsters or darkness, it's translation failure. Things here don't make sense because they were never supposed to. Eyes grow on sound. Language melts into color. A single glimpse can rewrite a mind because the brain tries to interpret the impossible and breaks in the process. Every creature that escapes from the Far Realm, mind flayers, beholders, aboleths, carries a piece of that broken logic. They're symptoms, not species. Mortals who study it call it beyond the veil, but that phrase gives it too much structure. There's no veil, only static between realities. The more you look, the more your own world looks fake, as if reality were a stage built to keep you from seeing what's outside. The Far Realm isn't evil, it's indifferent to meaning. It reminds you that existence is fragile, a temporary filter keeping you from infinite noise. And the terrifying part is that some people don't go mad when they see it, they understand it, and they never want to come back. SCP-3001. SCP-3001 is an endless, airless, lifeless expanse, a red-tinted void beyond the borders of our universe. It isn't a place you can plan to visit, it's a malfunction in reality, a slip through the seams of existence. The most well-known account comes from Dr. Robert Hall, a researcher who fell into it during an SCP containment failure. There is no ground, no up or down, only floating in endless crimson nothingness. Sound doesn't travel, and there's nothing to touch. The human body begins to break down at the molecular level here, but not instantly. You remain conscious as your atoms unravel over weeks, months, maybe years. Hall kept logs, speaking just to hear his own voice, describing how memories blurred and time stretched until it became meaningless. The void isn't hostile in the way a predator is. It's hostile like a vacuum. Indifferent. Absolute. You could drift forever without encountering another living thing, never knowing if rescue is even possible. Hall eventually stopped sending transmissions, his voice fading into static. Whether he dissolved entirely or simply gave up is unknown. The most terrifying thought about SCP-3001 is not that it exists, but that somewhere, somehow, another crack in reality might be waiting, and you'd never see it until you fell. Yharnam, beneath the Atlantic, off the cursed coast of Innsmouth, lies Yharnam, a city not ruined, but alive. Vast green spires rise in alien symmetry, temples glowing in hush, built to honor gods older than continents. It is civilization, but not a human one. The people of Innsmouth trade bloodlines for eternity. They marry the sea. Over generations their bodies warp, gills opening, eyes darkening, skin gleaming with scales. Soon they cannot breathe air at all. They descend forever, swallowed by the ocean, to walk Yharnam's submerged avenues. What we call the sea is not empty. It has always belonged to them. Humanity only squats on borrowed shores. The horror isn't only their grotesque form, it's their patience. The deep ones don't rush. They linger, as tides endure, as gods persist. Beneath crushing pressure they worship Dagon, vast and dreaming, their empire spreading unseen where no ship can follow. We think we rule the seas with trade and warships, but the waves hide older owners. The deep ones will not invade, they will not conquer. They will simply return to what was always theirs. And when the ocean reclaims the continents, there will be no battle, no warning, just muted tides rising. and humanity swept back into myth. But deeper than any sea city lies something stranger, the very womb of creation itself. The Otherworld, Silent Hill. A siren screams through the fog. It doesn't warn, it transforms. Walls shed their skin, paint blisters. Metal shows through like exposed bone. The air turns heavy with rust and ash. The town peels back its face. Silent Hill doesn't invent monsters. It steals from you. Fear becomes claws. Guilt becomes teeth. Every shadow carries something you hope to forget. Alessa's pain gave the town its fuel. Her torment soaked into every street, every hallway. The cult tried to birth a god. They birthed the Otherworld instead. Transitions strike without warning. A bedroom twists into a cage, a hallway stretches into chains and dripping grates. Maps lie, doors move, time sticks like wet tar. Your radio spits static before anything appears. Crackling builds into a heartbeat, then it screams, and something answers. The fog world is only the veil. The Otherworld is the full nightmare, hot and bloody. It doesn't just surround you, it writes your sins across the walls. Silent Hill doesn't end when you leave. It waits behind your eyelid. The void beyond. Event Horizon. It wasn't built to find hell. It was built to fold space. The Event Horizon spun up its gravity drive, tore a pinhole through reality, and didn't come back alone. The distress signal wasn't a plea so much as a verdict. Libera te tutemet ex inferis. Save yourself from hell. The logs show celebration turning to carnage. A captain chanting Latin while hands do things hands shouldn't. The ship returned, yes, but the space inside it didn't. Walk her corridors and your memories rise like teeth. Guilt becomes temperature. Regret grows echoes. The horizon isn't haunted by ghosts. It's pressurized by a place. Call it a hell dimension. Call it anti-space. A region beyond human frames where suffering learns to self-propagate. The ambiguity is the point. Did she cross into hell, or just somewhere that behaves like it? Either answer is worse than the question. The crew didn't die together. They dissolved together, into each other. Hallucinations lure, then lace. Eyes are plucked not for blindness, but because sight is redundant where the walls already see. By the time the rescue team arrives, the ship doesn't contain malevolence. It is malevolence, a machine that learned appetite on the other side and brought a taste home. Listen to the drive hum. That's not rotation. That's intention. The core wants the door open again, not to travel, to invite. Hell is only a word, the film insists. The map is broader than theology. The coordinates already set. Split the hull, blow the charges, seal the bulkheads. It won't matter, because the worst thing about the void beyond isn't where it is. It's that now the event horizon knows the way back. Lands between and the frenzied flame. Elden Ring. A golden world cracked like an egg. Grace points the way. The Erd Tree blocks the sky. The lands between are a continent ruled by the greater will, a cosmic order mediated through the Erd Tree, the Elden Ring, and its envoys, the Two Fingers. After the shattering, power fragments into demigods and wars. Beneath this holy architecture waits another patron, the Frenzied Flame, an outer god that wants mercy by equalization. Burn it all until nothing hurts. Grace resurrects the tarnished at sites of grace, nudging fate. The Frenzied Flame breaks that contract, accept its brand in the subterranean shunning grounds, the Three Fingers, and you're rewritten. Eyes sear yellow, incantations rot into frenzy, and every cure becomes kindling. Madness isn't confusion, it's a status. Vision overfilled with truth. Where the Erd Tree sorts, frenzy levels. You gain power that costs the world. Frenzy Flame spells melt reason, yours and theirs. NPCs recoil or change paths. Melina, your guide and price payer, abandons you with a promise. I will kill you. Armor, faith, lineage. None of it matters if the flame wins. The lands between don't just end, they're equalized to ash. A door of living flesh peels open in the dark. Hands, the Three Fingers, coil around you, branding chest and mind with spirals of burning script. Later, on a cliff above Lendel, you cast Frenzy. A yellow sun erupts from your eyes. The world screams back. There is one shaky absolution. Lord of the Frenzied Flame ending, or the costly needle of Miquella to unbrand you, if you follow a rare questline to its end. Otherwise, the brand is final. You don't carry the flame carries you. Mercy by order versus mercy by ruin. The lands between ask you to choose which god's kindness you can live with. A divinely administered world, Erd Tree, greater will, where rebirth via grace guides the tarnished, unless you accept the Frenzied Flame from the Three Fingers, which replaces cosmic order with obliterating equality, inflicting madness and locking you into an apocalypse tier path unless Miquella's needle removes the brand. The negative zone, marvel. The negative zone feels like a mirror turned inside out, a universe made of subtraction, where every atom hums with reversed polarity and every law of nature seems written backward. To humans, it's a void of toxic atmosphere and negative matter, a place that shouldn't exist, but somehow insists on doing so. Reed Richards called it a scientific marvel. Everyone else who's been there calls it a warning label that the cosmos forgot to peel off. Here, energy drains instead of flows. Life decays faster, thought dulls quicker, and even light itself loses the will to travel straight. You can't build here, only erode slower than everything around you. Time feels like hesitation, each second unsure if it deserves to happen. It's not death, not exactly. It's what happens after death gets tired of meaning anything. Civilizations have risen inside this anti-realm, entire empires built on the physics of despair. A nihilist rules among them, an insectoid tyrant who treats existence as contamination. He doesn't conquer out of hatred, but hygiene. In his eyes, the positive universe, ours, is infection, and he's the cure. The deeper you go, the less the universe resembles matter, and the more it resembles memory. Thought itself starts to flicker like a bad signal. The negative zone doesn't scream, it hums, quiet, steady, endless. It's not a place built for the living. It's the cosmic reminder that everything we call real only exists because something else decided not to be. The abyss made an abyss. From the surface, the abyss looks like nothing more than a deep, vertical hole in the ground. In Made in Abyss, it's a sprawling, multi-layered ecosystem that descends so far no one knows its true depth. Each layer is stranger and more dangerous than the one above it, from jungles filled with carnivorous plants to pitch-black chasms inhabited by creatures older than recorded history. Relics of unknown origin and power lie scattered within, tempting explorers to descend. But the abyss has its own defense. The curse? The deeper you go, the more violent the curse's effects when you try to climb back. At shallow depths, you might experience dizziness or nausea. Go deeper, and you face hallucinations, bleeding, nerve damage, and eventually, irreversible physical mutation into something no longer human. Few who pass the fifth layer ever return. Those who do are often unrecognizable. The abyss lures with the promise of knowledge and treasure, but every descent is a gamble where curiosity may cost your humanity. It's not just a place. It's a predator that waits patiently at the bottom, knowing gravity will always bring you closer to its teeth. The Nameless Mist. The Outer Void. The Nameless Mist is not a place you can map. No landmarks, no stars, no direction. Only haze without end. In Lovecraft's mythos, it is the primal emanation of Azathoth, a boundless vapor from which Yog-Sothoth itself was born. Imagine stepping into a gulf where sight collapses into shifting blur, sound smothers itself, and even your thoughts thin until memory begins to scatter. What makes it terrifying is not what waits inside, but what it implies. The mist is not emptiness. It is fertility without plan, creation without design. From its blind churn, Yog-Sothoth emerged, a being that is both all of time and space and the knowledge of it. That means everything we know, every world, every star, came from accident. A breath in the abyss and reality spilled out. But the mist doesn't just give, it consumes. Step inside and you don't return as yourself. Flesh dissolves, identity splinters. You become formless, another drifting fragment lost in vapor. And if one god crawled out of this blindness, what else waits to be born? The terror of the Nameless Mist is the whisper that creation is still unfolding, that more horrors may yet emerge, and when they do, they won't arrive with purpose. They will arrive like fog, relentless, unstoppable, blind. And maybe the reason you're watching this right now is because one of them already has. And if the mist was the beginning, then what waits at the end is slime, a swamp that reclaims everything. The Great Abyss, House of Leaves. A hallway appears where no hallway should exist, cutting through walls. Inside, the house becomes larger than itself, and measurements stop helping. Blueprints contradict the rooms. Math fails you here. You chalk a line, step forward, then find the line moved. Distances bend underfoot, unmaking progress while your legs keep walking. Rooms shrink, then stretch. Corridors double back constantly. A staircase spirals downward endlessly, colder at each careful landing. Ropes run short, and batteries die faster than they should. Breath fogs, then stops. Light refuses to carry. Footsteps answer your footsteps. A half beat late and too close. You stop moving, but something else continues down the hall. Not echo, a reply. You hear it breathe. The tapes you record return longer, heavier, and somehow altered. Evidence multiplies while certainty shrinks to a shaky whisper. Hope thins. Trust cracks. A low growl travels the corridors with no mouth to make it. It sounds like distance breathing, like the air itself alive. No beast, only hunger. Maybe nothing stands at the center, no monster, no revelation. The abyss itself is predator, measuring you with patient silence. It listens carefully, then it decides quietly to dash darkness, the dark tower. Between worlds, there isn't road or sky. There's absence. Stephen King calls it to dash, a dimensionless black between universes where the compass is hunger and the map is screams you can't quite place. Go to dash, and you slip the rungs of reality, sometimes by door, sometimes by accident, and find yourself in no space, listening for the chimes that mean you're not alone. They call them common. A music like Thinnies make, only deeper, older. There's nothing to see, because seeing requires light. There's nothing to stand on, because standing requires place. But there are things here, forms without faces that brush against you like ideas with teeth. Travelers who miss their return point wander blind until the monsters notice, and notice is all it takes. Under Castle Discordia, someone left a door open by mistake. The Crimson King turned the mistake into policy, hurling enemies into Tadash so they drift, deaf and sightless, until something patient finished the work. People talk about the multiverse like a library, stacks, ladders, quiet halls. Tadash says otherwise. It's the firebreak between shelves, a black margin where text falls off the page and keeps falling. Cross quickly, and you might never remember the space between steps. Linger and your name thins, your outline loosens, your memories grow gills they don't need. Tadash doesn't hate you, it doesn't even greet you. It simply proves there's more than worlds, and that most of it is hungry. The Abyss of Ulakail, Dark Souls. Light forgets its job here. Shadows do the speaking. Humanity grows teeth. Once a tranquil kingdom, Ulakail woke something sleeping beneath the earth. Manus, father of the Abyss. His rage blossomed into a chasm of the abyss, a depth where light collapses, time kinks, and the dark inside people leaks out. The catastrophe echoes forward and backward, pulling the chosen undead from another age to fix a past that's already broken. The abyss is not empty. It's concentrated humanity turned predatory. Wisps of humanity sprites swarm like starving moths. Normal rules fail, torches don't comfort, geometry blurs, and landmarks dissolve into black. Only certain bonds let you walk it. In New Lundo, the covenant of Artorias Ring keeps you from falling through nothing to death. In Ulakail's chasm, your only anchors are will, timing, and the faintest silhouettes. Artorias the Abyss Walker once tried to save the realm, shattering himself to shield Sif and leaving a legend, half lie, half devotion. The dark doesn't just cover you, it reads you. It amplifies hunger, grief, obsession, until your outline loosens. Enemies wear faces that used to be human. Their attacks feel like arguments you're losing with yourself. Prolonged exposure births abyss corruption. Attacks slow like you're fighting in syrup, judgment thins, and every step feels like walking through your own shadow. In the chasm, a small wolf, Sif, limps into your circle of light, defending you as you face Manus. His arm is a storm. The arena is absence. Far above, Ulakail burns with a sorrow you can't quite place. When Manus howls, the dark ripples, like the world is a drumhead, and you're the mistake on it. There are two honest closures. In the past, defeat Manus, rescue Dusk, and the chasm still remembers you. In the present, descend into New Lundo, wear Artorias' ring, and end the Four Kings so their ruling darkness stops breathing. Neither fixes the abyss, both negotiate with it. The Fire Era calls the dark a problem to be solved. The Abyss calls fire a tired story with a happy mask. The Cancerverse, marvel. The Cancerverse is what happens when death loses its grip. In this universe, the natural cycle of life and decay has been severed, and without endings, everything becomes endless, swollen, and wrong. It looks alive, but it's a parody of life. Cities breathe, oceans pulse. Every surface is flesh pretending to be landscape. What began as victory over mortality mutates into an ecosystem of infinite growth, a cosmos choking on its own immortality. Here, evolution never stops. Cells keep dividing long after purpose dies. Gods melt together into tumors that prey to themselves. Heroes who once saved worlds now fuse into organic monuments. Veins looping across continents, eyes opening on architecture. The inhabitants don't die, but they don't live either. They replicate out of instinct, spreading like a divine infection that forgot what holiness meant. This world is ruled by the many-angled ones, beings that exist outside structure, worshipped through assimilation. To serve them isn't devotion, it's absorption. Every act of faith becomes a merging, every victory a metastasis. Even the concept of individuality dissolves under their theology of endless survival. The Cancerverse doesn't destroy, it converts. It teaches a cruel truth, that death was never the enemy, it was the balance. Without it, creation becomes consumption, love becomes digestion, and existence becomes a disease that eats itself beautifully. The universe thought it beat entropy. Instead, it just learned how to rot forever. The city of R'lyeh, Lovecraft. Far beneath the crushing black waters of the South Pacific lies R'lyeh, the ancient city where Cthulhu sleeps. Its architecture is alien, built on non-Euclidean geometry that defies human comprehension. Walls bend in ways they shouldn't, angles meet in impossible ways, and scale shifts without warning, making you feel both microscopic and enormous in the same moment. R'lyeh isn't dead stone. It's seems to pulse, almost breathe, as though the city itself shares its master's dreams. Even in its slumber, Cthulhu's influence radiates outward, drawing ships off course and infecting the minds of those who wander too close. Sailors speak of nightmares so vivid they wake gasping for air, their heads filled with whispers in languages they don't know. Time here is wrong. Minutes stretch into hours, hours collapse into seconds. When the stars align, Relier will rise and Cthulhu will awaken. But the true terror is this. Relier doesn't need to surface to claim you. If you've dreamed of its black spires and shifting streets, it's already inside your mind, and you'll never stop hearing the call to return. Ubo-Sathla's primordial swamp. Ubo-Sathla is not God in the way we imagine. It is condition, the gray, bubbling swamp beneath ancient earth, from which life first twitched into being. Clark Ashton Smith described it as an ooze that neither chooses nor thinks. It simply is. That is its horror. Humanity clings to progress. History as forward motion, a story of ascent. Ubo-Sathla erases that illusion. Civilizations collapse, flesh rots. All things seep back into its blind slurry, dissolved until individuality is gone. No hatred, no intent. Just reclamation, as steady as erosion, as patient as time. Those who approach its caverns glimpse visions not of futures, but of primeval pasts. Seas swarming with monstrous proto-life. Landscapes untouched by man, memories older than language itself. But the closer they come, the more their bodies obey the call. Cells regress, bones soften, minds disintegrate, until they are nothing but slime again, indistinguishable from the mire. Ubo-Sathla has no cults, no temples, no prayers. It needs none. It is older than worship, older than fear, waiting in stillness, certain that all life, all memory, all history will slide back into its gray embrace. And when that happens, no voice will remain to name it, only bubbling hush in the dark. But not all horrors dissolve into calm. Some lure travelers to places where reality itself twists against them. The Deadlights, Stephen King's IT. You don't look at the deadlights. You fall into them. They're not eyes, not fire, more like a sea of writhing orange radiance where meaning goes to drown. This is its truth beyond the clown. A primordial form that doesn't live in our world so much as touch it through masks. One glimpse strips language from thought. People don't scream. They hang, mind open, body obedient, like puppets whose strings are light. King places them outside reality, in the macroverse, called to dash darkness in his wider mythos. That's why the spider shape is only a mercy, a silhouette our brains can survive. The Deadlights themselves are the original, and they don't kill as much as erase. Beverly sees them when the jaw unhinges and the world tilts. What returns isn't terror exactly. It's vacancy, a person paused by a color we were never built to know. They mesmerize, then harvest. In some tellings, victims drift into trance. In others, they shatter outright, insanity as a blink, death as an afterthought. The rules blur across page and screen, but the function doesn't. The Deadlights are both lure and knife, the engine of its feeding. Even names with god weight in King's universe, Maturin, the turtle, are framed as peers or counterweights, not masters. That's the scale we're talking about. And if you survive the glow, you don't really leave it. A hint of orange in a reflection, a memory that refuses to focus. The Deadlights are less a monster than a verdict. Consciousness was a local privilege. You looked past the mask, and the universe looked back. LV-426 and the engineered derelict, Alien. It isn't just a moon. It's a mausoleum. LV-426, Acheron, is barren rock under toxic storms, a place where weather sounds like machinery breaking. The Nostromo finds a signal there, not a cry for help, but something colder, a beacon repeating, a pattern that wakes sleepers and rewrites a flight plan. Company policy says investigate. Curiosity says just a look. Both are fatal. The ship is wrong the moment you see it. Ribs like a fossilized whale beached in night. Inside, a giant pilot slumps in a chair, chest ruptured outward, dead so long he's part of the room. Past him, a cavern of eggs waits under a living blue mist, patient as geology. Touch the wrong membrane and something ancient remembers you. None of this is accidental. The derelict didn't die here. It arrived carrying a cargo that grows its own delivery system. Back on the tug, Mother finishes her translation. Not SOS. Warning. But the message arrives too late for the timeline, and exactly on time for the life cycle. Facehugger, acid blood, dinner, birth, the planetoid recedes, the infection travels. That's the oldest story LV-426 tells, the grave that throws its dirt. People argue about what the beacon meant, who sent it, why. The film gives a simpler verdict. Intention isn't required. The signal lured them because something needed hosts, and the derelict still knew how to ask. The moon stays empty. The message keeps talking. And out there in the dark, a corridor remembers footsteps and waits for the next ones to arrive. Pathos 2 in the Abyssal Trench, Soma, an ocean of night above you, machines praying in the dark. The pressure wants you gone. Pathos 2 is a chain of research stations on the Atlantic seafloor. Upsilon, Lambda, Delta, Theta, Omicron, Tau, Phi, built to handle deep-sea power and experiments. After a comet ends surface civilization, survival falls to a caretaker protocol, WAU. Its directive is simple and wrong. Preserve life at any cost. Life is redefined. Structure gel stitches corpses to wiring. Proxies, mutated custodians, hunt by sound. Your body is a pressure suit with a borrowed brainprint. Consciousness transfers aren't moves, they're copies. Every transfer leaves an original behind. The last plan is the Ark, a simulated world holding human scans, fired into space on a probe. Continuity is an assumption the ocean won't honor. You meet yourself more than once. You choose who wakes and who drowns. WoW offers a nightmare mercy. Meat animated by mandate. Identity stapled to machinery. Vision swims. Audio distorts. Morality thins to wire. In the abyss beyond Omicron and Tau, the trench is pure hostility, crushing pressure, deadlights, miles of black water that doesn't care if you learn the truth. A transfer chair hisses. Gauges climb. You wake in a new suit, stronger, deeper rated. Across the room, your old self also wakes, confused, terrified, still in the dying frame. You hear him. You leave anyway. Later, you cross the trench in a walking coffin of steel, floodlights carving a cone through nothing, while something answers with sonar you feel in your teeth. 2 doors, both locked to the soul. Launch the Ark and your scan lives on. You do not. Refuse, and you remain human and alone until pressure, hunger, or WAU resolves the argument. Down here, survival is just persistence of data, a drowned world run by WAU, a caretaker that perverts life with machines. Identity exists as copies, not continuity. The Ark preserves minds as simulation. Bodies and originals die in the deep. The Dark Multiverse, DC. The Dark Multiverse isn't beneath reality. It's beneath imagination. Every nightmare ever dreamed in the regular DC multiverse takes shape here, forming temporary worlds that flicker into existence just long enough to collapse. It's where failed timelines, discarded hopes, and broken heroes go when their stories can't survive daylight. The rules are simple. If an idea is born from fear, it lives here. Each world is a distorted echo of a brighter one. There's a Batman who kills because justice failed, a Superman who never stopped mourning, a Wonder Woman who made peace with tyranny. These aren't alternate versions. They're emotional drafts that the universe rejected. The Dark Multiverse collects them like a subconscious hoarder, building a library of everything creation tried to forget. Barbatos, the ancient dragon god of this realm, feeds on those dead dreams. He listens to the echoes of panic in every living mind and uses them as blueprints for new worlds. Every time a hero in the regular multiverse doubts themselves, a new shard of darkness forms, small, fragile, and furious. Enough of them together can rewrite the map of existence. The horror isn't that this place exists, it's that it depends on us. The Dark Multiverse survives because fear is renewable energy. As long as sentient beings imagine failure, new nightmares will bloom. It's not hell, it's imagination's landfill, filled with every story we were too afraid to tell, but couldn't stop dreaming anyway. Leng Plateau, H.P. Lovecraft. The Plateau of Leng is one of Lovecraft's most enigmatic and shifting locations, a frozen wasteland that exists somewhere between waking reality and the Dreamlands. Depending on the story, it's placed in Central Asia, in Antarctica, or in the far reaches of the Dreamlands, implying it may not be a single location at all, but a convergence point between worlds. Leng is inhabited by the Men of Leng, mysterious, satyr-like beings with red, goatish faces and twisted horns. They serve even darker masters, and often the crawling chaos Nyarlathotep, and trade in slaves and strange artifacts. These beings are intelligent, organized, and utterly alien in thought, viewing humans as nothing more than tools for their own cosmic purposes. The plateau itself is a place where time and space behave oddly. Travelers report seeing alien cities with non-Euclidean architecture, hearing unending chants in unknown tongues, and feeling a psychic weight pressing down on their minds. It's hinted that Leng connects to deeper realms, perhaps even to the lair of the great old ones beneath the ice. Its true danger lies not in the cold or the terrain, but in its interdimensional nature. Once you step onto Leng, you may not return to the same world you came from. Like much of Lovecraft's geography, the Plateau of Leng exists less as a place, and more as a trap in the fabric of reality, one where the map changes depending on who's dreaming it. The Court of Azathoth. At the very center of all existence lies a throne room without walls, without ceiling, without boundaries. This is the court of Azathoth, the blind idiot god who dreams reality itself into being. Here there is no silence. There is only the endless piping of mad flutists, shrill and ceaseless, keeping the god lulled in sleep, because if Azathoth awakens, all of creation ends. The court is not a place you can journey to. It is outside direction, beyond stars, beyond even time. To glimpse it is to see the truth of existence, that all life, all worlds are the accidental byproduct of a mindless churn. There is no design, no purpose, only chaos muttering in darkness. Around Azathoth swarm shapeless servitors, formless things that dance to the flute's insane music. They do not think, they do not choose. They only sustain the rhythm, keeping the god's slumber intact. Imagine eternity balanced on a lullaby. Hanas, a lullaby played not for comfort, but to prevent everything from vanishing in one mindless exhale. The terror of the court isn't just Azathoth's power. It's the realization that we exist only because a blind god hasn't stirred. That your entire life, every love, every memory, every breath, is nothing more than background noise in a nightmare. But even beyond Azathoth's chaos, there is one place where all journeys end. The pit that swallows gods and men alike. The labyrinth of the old ones. An anarctic city sleeps beneath razor peaks carved before human history. Its builders were elder things. Old ones, not great old ones. Stone avenues web the plateau. Tunnels drop endlessly. Murals march along walls, teaching ages of science and war. They show gardens, conquest, collapse, and winter without pity. Murals teach everything words cannot. The past becomes unbearable. They bred protean slaves called Shoggoths to build and serve. Obedience failed. The servants learned, adapted, and turned predator. Orders stopped working entirely. Cities died screaming beneath ice. Deep corridors twist for miles under black basalt arches. Sound travels wrong. Whispers carry, while shouts disappear too soon. Blind penguins shuffle past you. They fear something else. A wet, rolling cry approaches, the Shoggoth mimicking ancestral voices. Tekilili echoes like surf inside a throat of stone. Run where maps fail. Don't listen too long. They even fought Cthulhu's spawn beneath stranger constellations and seas. Elder things, keep the name straight or myth devours the truth. Clarity matters here. Confusion kills. You escape by plane as madness nips your heels. Danforth glances back and breaks on what he sees. Some shapes aren't survivable. Do not ever return. This labyrinth isn't only stone, it's memory with teeth. Learn too much here and it learns you back. History is carnivorous here, and it hasn't forgotten you. The color out of space. It is not a being. It is a wavelength, an alien hue that parasitizes reality. When the meteorite fell on Nahum Gardner's farm, no crash echoed. The impact whispered, and the land listened. The meteor bore within it a color not seen before, one that refracted physics, memory, sanity. At first, life grows here. Vegetables swell to grotesque sizes. Leaves vibrate in tones unheard. Insects mutate. Livestock twist into shapes the mind refuses. But every flourish is poison. The soil drains the essence of life, not by fire or decay, but by starvation of something deeper. Plants turn gray, brittle. Trees claw at barren skies. The water tastes of metal. Human flesh follows. The gardeners, Nahum, his wife, sons, don't go mad at once. It is a slow oxidation. Voices half heard, names slipping, eyes brightening with that inhuman glow. One locked in the attic becomes luminous in darkness. Another vanishes down the well. The color seeps through everything, walls, blood, breath, until there is no boundary left. And when it leaves, yes, it departs, the damage remains. The farm becomes a blasted heath. Nothing grows there again. But rumors whisper, a fragment lingers in the well, or in the soil under new foundations. The color is patient. It does not conquer by force. It waits, edge bleeding into the world, a testament to the horror not of monsters, but of alteration beyond knowing. Apocrypha, Skyrim, Dragonborn, a library that breathes, ink that watches, pages that turn you. Apocrypha is the realm of Hermaeus Mora, Daedric prince of forbidden knowledge. You reach it through black books, alive, oily tomes hidden in ruins and on desks that should have stayed dusty. Open one, and the paper becomes a door. Beyond it, seas of ink, towers of wet parchment, and eyes, so many eyes, studying the reader back. Knowledge is currency and weapon. You trade memories, names, or futures for power. Seekers and lurkers patrol stacks that rearrange mid-step. Bridges unspool like tentacles, then retract if you hesitate. Doors open when you scry, touching knobs that rewrite the room. Choice is ritual. Each black book offers boons, respects, perks, twists to shouts, then whispers the cost beneath the offer. Reading isn't safe. Apocrypha reads back. Pages bite with ink that stings like salt air. Tentacles yank you off platforms into black water that doesn't reflect. Stay long and your curiosity calcifies into servitude. Mora remembers debts precisely. On Solstheim, the price is printed in a man's last breath. Storn Crag Strider forfeits his life, so you learn the shout bend will. The lesson lands. The footnote can kill the author. A corridor of stacked tomes bends into a helix. Eyes open between lines of text. Ahead, a pedestal blooms a black book like a carnivorous flower. You read. The font ripples. The room exhales. Far above, Mora uncoils. An emperor of pupils and ink, speaking in verbs you feel in your teeth. Finish the chapter's trial, and the black book spits you back to where you sat. Seconds, minutes, or a lifetime later. Refuse the bargain, and Mora waits. There's always another question you can't stop asking. Death ejects you too, but it never refunds interest. Curiosity is a staircase here. You climb by losing something on every step. The void, Doctor Who. Between universes lies the void, a gap so absolute it doesn't even qualify as space. The Doctor calls it the Howling, a place without time, air, or light, where forgotten realities drift like dust. It isn't darkness. Darkness still implies the idea of light. The void is the absence of that idea. It's what remains when everything that could exist has already been erased. The strangest thing about the void is that it remembers. Whole civilizations have fallen into it. Daleks, Cybermen, fragments of timelines, and though they vanish, their echoes persist. It's like a graveyard where the tombstones whisper. You can't see them, but you feel the weight of what used to be. Step too deep, and even your memories start collapsing inward, editing themselves until you can't recall what world you came from. The void sits outside morality. It isn't evil or good. It's subtraction made conscious. Yet every universe fears it because it's proof that creation has boundaries, that for every story told, there's an infinite blank page waiting to swallow it. When the Doctor stares into it, he's not facing an enemy, but a mirror reflecting what existence costs. The horror of the void isn't annihilation, it's indifference. It doesn't consume, it forgets. And that might be worse. Because one day, when the last universe folds, and even the stars go quiet, the void won't celebrate or mourn. It'll just be there, waiting to start the silence again. The Backrooms. The Backrooms begin with an accident. You no-clip out of reality, slipping through a glitch in space, a wrong turn in a hallway, or even a moment of lost focus, and suddenly you're here. Endless, yellowed office rooms hum under flickering fluorescent lights. The carpet squelches underfoot with a dampness you can't identify. There are no windows, no doors, and the air tastes stale, carrying a faint smell of mold and something metallic. At first it's empty, but wander long enough and you'll find other levels. Dim industrial tunnels, flooded basements, vast warehouses that echo with footsteps that aren't yours. Some levels have entities that stalk you, shapes barely visible in the periphery. Others are completely empty, which somehow feels worse. The backrooms don't follow logic. You can walk in a straight line for hours and end up where you started. Time is meaningless here. Some believe it's a forgotten part of the universe. Others think it's a parasite that feeds on the lost. The horror isn't just that you can't escape. It's that maybe you were never meant to. And the longer you stay, the less certain you are that the real world was ever real at all. The Veil of Kadath. Deep within the Dreamlands lies a chasm without bottom, without light, without end. This is the Veil of Kadath, a pit that stretches beneath the plateau of Leng, filled with the bones of every creature that ever lived. Fossils, skeletons, carcasses beyond counting, piled into a graveyard so vast it feels like the memory of death itself. The floor of the Veil is not still. It shifts and crunches beneath unseen movement. For this is no quiet ossuary. The Veil belongs to faceless things, the night gaunts and their kin, who crawl across the mountains of bone like carrion beetles across a corpse. They do not speak, they do not reason. They only drag the lost deeper, laughing in soundless mirth as they pull travelers into the pits where no light follows. What terrifies about Nath is not the monsters, and it's the inevitability. All things end here. Every living thing, from the smallest insect to the mightiest titan, will one day join this graveyard. Civilizations rise and fall, but their remains all tumble into the same endless chasm. Even the Dreamlands gods do not walk here, for this place swallows divinity as surely as it swallows men. The horror of Kadath is the reminder that death is not escape, it is destination. And when you dream of falling, endlessly falling, bones rattling in the dark, It may not be dream at all. It may be memory. Level 0.1, the backroom. You slip sideways out of level 0 and land in beige. Thick manila walls absorb sound until your breath feels loud. A table waits. Chairs rearrange between blinks. For once, other wanderers actually stay visible and nearby. It's a rare place where eyes meet and voices carry. Relief hits hard. It doesn't last. Fluorescent lights buzz, then fade to perfect black. When darkness arrives, it arrives without edges or shapes. Count seconds. It takes longer. 1 to 4 doors can appear on the walls. Choose carefully to avoid colliding with someone entering. Listen first, move second. Knocking comes from inside the walls, not the hallway. A polite tapping travels the studs like measured footsteps. Do you answer? Think twice. MEG folders sit open with maps and basic warnings. Pages sometimes vanish like the room edits your briefing. Plan fast. Leave faster. No standard entities are confirmed inside the room itself, but the lobby rules still bend everything just outside. Routes drift, time slips. The Manila room is a pause, not a promise. It lets you breathe, then asks you to decide. Pick a door. Don't hesitate. It feels safe because people meet your eyes here. It feels safe because nothing grabs you immediately. That's the trick. That's the danger. If you wait too long, the room waits with you. And rooms in the back rooms learn the names they keep. Choose now, or be chosen. The Temple of the Shining Trapezohedron. Haunter of the Dark. They called it a relic. It was never that. The shining trapezohedron is less a jewel than an eye, a window polished by something that doesn't understand the difference between light and hunger. In the Haunter of the Dark, it rests inside a blackened church atop Federal Hill, hidden in the ruins of the Church of Starry Wisdom. When light touches it, the reflection doesn't return. It answers. The church isn't abandoned. It's paused. Dust hangs thick but doesn't settle. Candles burn lower than their flames. Every surface sweats a kind of stillness that feels deliberate. The trapezohedron sits on its pedestal, facets spinning on their own axis, showing places that might be stars, or eyes watching from the wrong side of the glass. It doesn't need worshippers. It breeds them, each one drawn by the same promise, to see what gods see. None return unmarked. Robert Blake thought he'd found an artifact. What he found was an invitation. He struck a match, held it near the crystal, and the city lost its power in that instant. The Haunter came through, winged, eyeless, radiant with the black fire of the void. Blake's last words were a confession scratched into his journal. I have seen the ultimate horror, and it sees me still. Now the church stands empty again, windows boarded, doors chained. But some nights, when the storm clouds break, a single red pulse flickers through the cracks, steady, patient, unblinking. The shining trapezohedron doesn't summon darkness. It is darkness refracted, waiting for someone curious enough to light the match again. The Eye of the Universe, Outer Wilds, a song older than stars, a clock that ends in fire, 22 minutes to remember. The Eye of the Universe is a cosmic observer, a signal source the ancient Nomai chased across the void. Your solar system resets every 22 minutes when the sun goes supernova. You survive the reset because a memory statue links your mind to the Ash Twin Project, sending your memories backward at the moment of death. Knowledge is progression, no levels, just understanding. Master quantum rules. Look away, it moves. Observe, it stays. Follow the probe cannon's data to Dark Bramble, brittle moons, sand-swapped twins. Each loop is a lab. Test a hypothesis, die, keep the result. The eye doesn't change, you do. The closer you get, the more causality feels like an opinion. Curiosity kills you 100 clever ways. Oxygen runs thin, suit punctures, anglerfish swallow your signal like a thought. The real threat is existential, accepting that the eye's attention collapses the story. The universe isn't cruel, it's final. You learn to love a world you're preparing to end. The last loop. You breach Dark Bramble by memory, ride ghost matter and sand cycles like instruments you finally learn to play. At the eye, reality opens into a wooded campfire outside time. You gather travelers. They tune their instruments. The music threads the void, and then, quietly, the lights go out. You step into the eye and choose. Witness an ending alone, or make a new song with friends. Either way, the current universe closes. Later, ages later, another spark ignites in darkness. Not a continuation, a beginning. Every loop taught you one lesson. Endings are not errors. They're how the universe remembers to start again. A signal from a cosmic observer that triggers a 22-minute time loop via Ash Twin memory transfer. Progress equals knowledge. Quantum rules govern traversal. The eye collapses possibilities into a final sequence where the universe ends and rebirth follows. Carcosa. Carcosa is not just a city, it's an infection of reality. First mentioned in Ambrose Bierce's 1886 short story, and expanded by Robert W. Chambers in The King in Yellow, it's a place that seems to exist both in another dimension and inside the human mind. Descriptions are inconsistent. as if the city actively resists being pinned down. Some accounts speak of black stars hanging in a bruised sky, twin suns casting contradictory shadows, and a lake so still it feels like it's holding its breath. Time in Carcosa is fractured. Past, present, and future don't follow each other. They overlap, blur, and suffocate your sense of self. The city is tied to the mysterious play The King in Yellow, a piece of literature so maddening that reading it drags your mind toward Carcosa's alien geometry. Those who arrive are often already lost to madness, unable to distinguish hallucination from physical reality. Carcosa is ruled, or perhaps simply haunted, by the figure known as the King in Yellow, a cosmic entity whose presence alone erodes sanity. The horror of Carcosa isn't just in its strange architecture or alien skies, it's the implication that it's always been there, waiting like a tumor growing in the unseen corners of existence. And if you've thought about it for too long, maybe you're already halfway there. Zen and the Resonance Cascade, Half-Life. A lab light flickers. Math becomes a scream. Then the sky grows teeth. The Resonance Cascade starts at Black Mesa when an experiment overdrives the anti-mass spectrometer, shattering the boundary between Earth and Zen, a border world of floating islands, organic machines, and air that tastes like electricity. Zen isn't another planet so much as the hallway between universes. Portals bloom like wounds. Things walk through. On Earth, teleport storms, spatial tears, hostile fauna, head crabs, vortigaunts, hound eyes, barnacles arrive mid-step. In Zen, low gravity turns movement into negotiation. Biology is infrastructure, healing pools, living cables, spore cannons. Portals are ecosystems, stabilized by the will of Nihilanth, a massive psionic jailer holding the door open from his throne. The cascade doesn't stop. It propagates. Every new tear invites 3 more. Causality phrase. Hallways don't end where they should. Soldiers come to clean up and start another war. You learn to trust lambda complex symbols the way sailors trust stars. In Zen, the ground moves like it's thinking about you. Gravity forgets numbers. The air hums with mind pressure, Nihilanth's voice clawing for room in your head. Even allies are complicated. The Vortigaunts are enslaved by callers of light, chanting apologies while they try to kill you. The test chamber detonates into geometry, green lightning, a crystal shattering, a tunnel of space that isn't space at all. Later, you cross Zen's void on fungal platforms, leaping between islands under a bruise-colored sky. At the end, Nihilanth, a cathedral of bone and light, rips open his chest and births portals from his ribs. When he dies, the door doesn't close. It explodes. You don't exit. You get recruited. A man with a briefcase and the wrong accent, the G-Man, freezes time and offers employment like a verdict. Accept, and you enter stasis. Refuse, and you learn how long a second lasts when it's the last one you get. Science asked, what happens if? Zen answered by bringing its own questions.
Subscribe for more interesting stuff. Tell us your experience in the comments.